a Fu Manchu. Now, a lot of you out there have tuned in week after week, month after month, year after year to watch my silly reviews. Well, I'm sorry to inform you that today there will be no review. No, today it's time to talk about something a little bit more serious. Now, I think a lot of you out there have finally reached the age that we can discuss this subject in a frank tone. So if there's any childrens present, send them out of the room now to watch Teletubbies or whatever it is they do, and they can watch this video later when you're not looking. Now, let's talk about something that's sweeping the world. It's out there, on the street, beckoning you, almost luring you in. And the saddest part is, it's cheap. Now, you yourself may have not been afflicted by this, but you probably know somebody who was. And you know what? I'm one of those people. That's right. I have found myself addicted to Transformers KOs. That's right. Those KOs are out there, man. And you know what? They look really good on the surface, and you go, hey, man, this is really awesome. I don't want to spend $100 on an action figure toy Transformer guy when I can get it for $20. I mean, geez, why would I do that? I mean, $20, I'll take it. I'll take 4 of them. I don't care. Next thing you know, you spent the same money that you would have spent on the frickin' Transformer to begin with. Yeah, but it happens. And you know what? It's happened to me more times than I can count. And in the past, I've been a staunch believer that, hey, if you want a KO, don't worry about if it's right or wrong to buy them or not. Just get them if you want them. I mean, seriously, I'm not a cheapskate or anything like that, but when I can get a Transformer for $20 as opposed to $80, what do you think I'm going to pick? The $20 ones look pretty good to me. But you know what? It's time to discuss the finer details of them. Because I've realized something. I have been out there rebuying the Masterpiece Transformers that I was buying KOs of to begin with. So what? I just spent more money to get it. Oh, man. So, yep, it's time to get serious and talk about it. Consider this community service. That's what they're calling it, right? Jeez, you think the judge would be happy. Anyways, seriously, yep, it's time to talk about it, so let's go look at them. Shall we? Now, I just received this Transformers Masterpiece figure of Exhaust in the mail today, and he looks awesome. Now you're probably saying, hey, what's the problem there? Well, I already had one. And as you can see, this box looks pretty much identical to the other one. Unless you start looking at it up close. And you start to notice the little changes. Now, all the details are small, of course, but still different. Little things like having a sticker, or not having a sticker. Very slight color changes that you would honestly only notice if you had both boxes. But regardless, the differences are there. Now, like I said, all of these little differences are so small that you really have to look for them. So does it really constitute spending more money on having the original Masterpiece Transformer? Let's find out. Because just like the boxes, the changes to the toy are so small it's not even really noticeable. Now check this figure out. He looks incredible. I mean, this thing looks amazing. And you know what? This is the KO. That's right, this isn't even the licensed Masterpiece Transformer of Exhaust. No, this is. Over here. This is the one I just received. I literally just transformed him and threw him over here to show you in this video. But check this out. They look close enough to be twin brothers. Now, looking at the KO's Decepticon symbol and comparing it to the original, I think you'd be hard-pressed to figure out which one's which. Looking at the Lancia on the KO and comparing it to the original, you'll see that both have their disadvantages. Now, looking at Exhaust's face on the KO, and you will see exactly how he looks here. And when you compare him to the original, you'll see what it looks like, so you can compare the two. You'll notice that the original doesn't have his eyes painted exactly the same way as the other one. It's a little off the line there. But one of the things you'll notice on the KO is that the silver seems to be a little bit more like, I don't know, flaky looking? I don't know how to describe that, but if you look at it there and compare it to the original again, the original looks a hair smoother, not by much, but just a little bit. Now, looking at the details on the door of the KO, you will see that down here it says superpowered I don't know what that says, but you'll see exactly what it looks like there. Now, comparing this to the original, you'll see you can't even read the original. Look at that. It's all fuzzy looking. The numbers look a little messed up there. I mean, seriously, you can't even read it on the original, so who knows what it originally said. Now, flipping the car over and looking at the opposite door, you'll see that it's just as fuzzy, so I don't know about that. Let's go back and look at the KO again. Now, this is the opposite door in the KO, and look how clear that is. It's not fuzzy at all. Now, the letters up here are a little smudgy looking, but you can't see that with the naked eye. But yeah, you can actually read this here, whereas the original Masterpiece, you couldn't read it at all. That's kind of weird. So, those are just a few of the little details on Exhaust, and you can see that the Masterpiece really doesn't have better paint apps, which is weird. You'd think that the Masterpiece would have way better, but apparently no. It's still got flaws and little mess-ups and stuff like that. Whereas the KO, you can actually read the writing on his doors, and, I mean, even his eyes are painted better. So let's move on to Sideswipe. Or Lambor to my friends overseas. And you know what? Here they are standing here together and they both look amazing. Now this one over here is the KO. I put some repro labels on him a long time ago. And so that's how you know the difference. There he is. And he looks pretty good to me. And then over here is the original that I just received in the mail a couple of weeks ago. And I absolutely love him. Now one of the things that I did notice about it that makes this one better over here is the shoulder. This little red part of the shoulder here. If we look at it up close, you will see that the red paint on his shoulder is very, very smooth looking. Look at that. It looks so nice. Looking at the shoulder of the KO, you'll see it's a little bit thicker and more globby looking, but that's okay. It didn't look that bad until I saw the original. Now, back to the original. Here's his little Lamborghini logo. And looking at the KO's belly button, because apparently that's not a Lamborghini logo. Now, here's the Autobot symbol on the original Masterpiece figure. And here's the Autobot symbol on the KO. Now, a lot of people have pointed out that the headlights on the original has a little black line around the headlight itself. Whereas the KO has no black line at all. But that black line on the original is so faint on mine, it's hardly even there. Now, looking at the original Masterpiece Sideswipe's face there, you will see that he's got pointed eyes that point in towards his nose. Whereas the KO has almost rounder eyes, which is kind of cool too. Check that out. But if you look at the features on his face especially, the silver paint again looks a little speckly. Whereas if you look at the original again, it's a little bit smoother. It's still speckly, but just a little smoother. And as you can see, his features on his face almost look a little different. Not by much, but just a little. So yeah, they're a little different if you just look at the face. Now, when I asked my wife to compare this original here to that one, she noticed something that I didn't notice at all. Look at his mohawk there on top of his head. This is the original's head. And this is the KO's head. And if you look, his mohawk is actually a little bit taller, which is kind of weird. I didn't even notice that. But yep, it's not because it isn't pushed in all the way. It's just a little taller. The most notable change that everybody knows about is Lamborghini on the original and Lamborghini on the KO. Countach on the original and Cantac on the other. So yep, the KO can't even get that right. But honestly, as you can see, all the little differences are so minute, and neither one of the figures is absolutely perfect. So yeah, I don't know, man. Let's move on to Bumblebee. Because out of the three figures, this is the one that I noticed the most differences between when I first opened it. Now, one of those differences you can see with your naked eye, and that is the Autobot symbol. Now, if you look carefully, the Autobot symbol is actually sculpted and raised up. And here on the KO, they didn't paint the red all around the raised area, so it's kind of like a splotchy Autobot symbol. Whereas on the Masterpiece figure over here, they actually painted the solid, Autobot symbol completely red, which is awesome. Now, when I originally got this KO, I didn't like the way the Autobot symbol looked, and I really hoped that if I got an original, the Autobot symbol would look good. But I still didn't get a great one, because if you look, the square area around the Autobot symbol on the original doesn't match the same paint. So that's kind of weird, man, because this one over here matches perfectly, it's just painted bad, and this one over here doesn't match at all. Now, looking at the Autobot symbol on the KO, you can see exactly what I was talking about. They just didn't paint the entire raised area of the symbol itself. Now, when you compare it to the original Masterpiece Bumblebee, well, it becomes no contest. Now, one of the things I noticed back when I first bought this figure was on the KO's face, his face looks very smooth. You can't see the lines on his cheeks or his chin, really. And his eyes seem to kind of blend in with the rest of his face. So that smooth face just doesn't work for me. Now, looking at the original Masterpiece, it's still pretty smooth, but you can make out a little bit more of those details. Like his eyes seem a little bit more sunken in, which is good. You can actually see a little bit of his chin lines and his jaw lines, which is very cool indeed. Plus, he's missing that little splotch of paint there on his crest on his mohawk. But yeah, look at that. There's the original Masterpiece. And there's the KO face again. And, you know, like I said, you can tell a difference. Now, looking at the KO's foot here, you'll see the front of the Volkswagen. There's the headlight, there's the little indicator light, and there's the Autobot symbol. And comparing it to the original, you can see that the details are just a little bit better. Very cool indeed. But yeah, like I said, when I first opened this guy, that was when I could tell the differences, you know, flat out. With the other Masterpiece and KO figures, you never really can tell a difference. Now, this one, it kind of stood out a little bit. But I was still a little sad that this one still had its flaws. Not many, but still a few. So, are there differences between KOs and original Masterpiece Transformers? Of course. But are there differences between each toy to each toy? Yeah, there are. I mean, you never know which one you're going to get. You don't know if you're going to get a good paint job on original or a KO. For all you know, you'll get a really good KO or a really bad original. Or vice versa. And you know what? Every toy out there is like that. But you know what? I thought it was really cool to show off the differences between these. Now, my good buddy Chachi Power always makes videos like this where he shows off the differences between KOs and Transformers Masterpiece figures. So if you haven't seen his videos, which I'm sure you have by now, go check them out because they're awesome. Go watch them for the 80th time. Just keep watching them. Just keep racking up those numbers. So, this concludes my public service announcement on the differences between the KO Masterpiece Transformers and the original Masterpiece Transformers. Now, what have we learned today? Well, we've learned that the differences are very minute, if any. I mean, seriously, some of the differences stand out. Some of the differences are so small you barely notice them at all. Now, sometimes the Masterpiece ones are really good. Sometimes the Masterpiece ones have flaws. Sometimes the KOs are really good. Sometimes the KOs have flaws. But you know what we've learned the most? Don't let the government find out that you're frickin' bootlegging Masterpiece Transformers, because they'll make you make a stupid public service announcement. This really sucks, man!